I'm still asking you the same thing. You say you have a litany of things that you would cut from the stimulus bill. What are they?
Well, look at all the infrastructure jobs. I mean, you could go down the list and say, why is that necessary now? Why would this be important here? Why would that be important here? Why do you
go down the list. Tell me one or two infrastructure projects that you think were not worthwhile.
Okay, how about the bridge in Missouri?
Okay, why was that bridge not?
$300 million project. You could probably do that same.
How much was it?
I think it's a $300 million project in Missouri. I don't have it in front of me. But nor did I know you were going to call, because I certainly would have been more prepared. But I'm trying to do this off the cuff, which is fine.
Right. I understand.
But there's let's see, the highway leading from, is it Cleveland? There's a number of things that I read about which could have been done for a fraction. The bottom line is that the real objection here is that there's no plan to recover the economy. There's a plan to feed the Democratic political arms. And that's all this is about. It's a smash and grab, just like the Big Dig was.
I see. All right. I mean, that's an interesting opinion, and you can name a project in Missouri for $300 million out of the $800 billion stimulus. But
Sam,
okay, I'm just trying to get a sense.
How many Union generals led the Army of the Potomac in the Civil War? You probably don't remember everything you read, right? All right, so that's my point here.
Well, I didn't go to a protest about that either, and I didn't actually
I went to protest
stalk somebody who was criticizing a protest either. I mean, you're far more invested in this than I am in the Union, in the Civil War, and the generals of the Civil War.
I just made my point that you don't remember everything you read, and you're poking fun at the fact that...
I don't think I ever read that, but that's not even the point.
Okay.
I don't think this is... I mean, I'm not protesting anything about the Civil War. You're suggesting that there's something wrong with the stimulus bill, and the only thing you can mention is some bridge in Missouri for $300 million.
Neighborhood stabilization projects.
$800 billion.
Neighborhood stabilization projects. Why, the president...
Now, wait a second. What's wrong with the neighborhood stabilization project?
What is it?
I mean, now listen, you've got poor people who live in neighborhoods which could turn, things could turn quite ugly here with the level of unemployment that we have. You don't think that's an important aspect?
Wait a minute now. Are you saying that money is going to police departments?
No, I'm saying it's going to maintain the stability of neighborhoods.
Where's it going? So you're going to recite the title to justify where it's going to. Tell me, where does that in any way help with the policing?
Well, you don't think that it makes a difference if a neighborhood is clean and if there's upkeep there and if there's parks and I mean, you brought it up, so you must have a specific problem with it.
Well, my problem is that it doesn't allow that those neighborhood stabilization projects have no elbow room to give the municipalities any policing. Wouldn't that be the goal?
Well, no, I don't think it's just policing. I think you want to maintain the quality of life for people.
Just using you. I'm just trying to be you for a minute. I'm sorry, Sam. No, look, there's a lot wrong here. And the fact that the president's philosophy, and just hear me out, the president's philosophy, he basically said, look, I inherited a deficit of $1.3 trillion. And so I inherited a broken arm, and in order to fix it, I'm going to break my legs.
No, I explained to you the dynamic. When I moved into my house, I could have easily maintained electric baseboard heat, and it would have been a lot cheaper than it would have been putting in a legitimate heating system. But you understand, by a big investment now, I will save money 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Your analogy, you have a light at the end of the tunnel. Nobody can explain to the American people why this is going to work, not even Geithner. Geithner's the architect of this thing. Nobody can say why this is going to work.
Are you talking about the TARP or are you talking about the stimulus?
I'm talking about the economic recovery plan, the stimulus plan.
Okay, and you don't think there's been an explanation as to investing long-term in infrastructure and other projects and providing extensions on things like unemployment insurance? You don't see how this is going to help. You don't see how by having people not foreclose on their homes, it's going to help.
That's my senator who was pushing for that, Ted Kennedy, expanding unemployment benefits, which is going to help American families. I'm not arguing with it, but it also does nothing but mask the symptoms. We've got to cure the disease. We've got to cure what's wrong. And what's wrong is there is no...
I agree with you. I think we should be raising taxes far more than Obama is. Obama, as you know, is not changing the taxes on anybody who makes less than $250,000, and that's not even kicking in until 2011. So you had people out there who are protesting their tax rates that were established under George Bush.
And as a result result of him saying that he's not going to be taxing 95%, 95, right, are going to see less federal taxes. And so what's happening, the states are raising their taxes on the same people because the revenues have to come from somewhere. It is,
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with you. I think we should have a much higher marginal tax rate.
Wow. Well,
and Ken, I can't wait for the two of us to go out and protest for higher taxes on those people making $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, et cetera, a year.
Yeah, you're calling for higher taxes. I understand. I don't think that you're in the majority, though. I think that
No, I think you're probably right about that.
Well, it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Well, you just said that states are having to raise taxes because the federal government isn't. So obviously there's a need for this money.
No, what else is in that stimulus package but the removal of welfare reform? So now the states are going to be stuck with increasing their rolls by 20 to 30%, and then once that
No, it allows for states to increase their rolls. And the problem with the Welfare Reform Act that Clinton pushed through, frankly, is that it was done at a time where there was increasing jobs. But now there are no jobs. And so people moving off of welfare can't move into jobs.
So we should be creating jobs. Not
well, how exactly do you do that?
Not just
you don't like infrastructure spending. You don't like infrastructure spending. You don't want to see money put into, let's say, car companies or I mean, there's certainly money in the stimulus.
The government.
Maybe we can agree that there's not enough to put seed money in for green companies. But I mean, what is your solution then, Ken?
It is
just cut that bridge in Missouri and everything will be fine?
I think you allow for the American workers to do the jobs at the price they can do it for, and let everybody bid equally. I don't think you just cut out people who don't necessarily have prevailing wages. Save the taxpayers some money. Why would you?
Do you know what happens now? Do you know what's happening, Ken? I'm sure you're aware of this. There's a lot of companies. My cousin's up in Massachusetts. She's taken a 5% pay cut. There are companies all across the country now who are doing these pay cuts to save jobs of their workers. That's great. But the problem is, what it does is when everybody cuts their pay like that, the margin in which that profits come stays the same for all companies, and therefore it drives down the price of goods and creates a deflationary spiral. And what we will have is we will continue to have an economy that will not recover.
If you're not charging as much for labor, okay, you don't have to charge as much for your profit margin.
Exactly. And if Company A does that and Company B does that, that is called deflation, Ken.
Well, that's called
deflation.
So let me ask you this: I have a friend who runs a business. It's a non-union. They're glazers. They install glass. They pay their guys $23, $25, $27 an hour, depending on their experience. And they'll do a mall one day. They'll do a radio station one day. And then when they do a state job, everybody's got to get paid $40 an hour. So why is that fair to the taxpayer?
Why is that fair to the taxpayer?
Yeah. Why is it fair to the taxpayer, Sam?
That
you guys show up on their own, willingly, voluntarily, and they're happy with the wages they're getting, apparently, because they show up every day. Now, all of a sudden, it's a state project. They get a $14, $16, $18 raise. Why is that fair?
Why does it? I can tell you why it benefits the taxpayer. Because the taxpayer is probably going to see their wages. There's going to be an upward pressure on their wages as well, because those union guys are getting that wages. And it's going to raise the wages of everyone else in that industry because it's going to put upward pressure on that. And then what you're going to see is people are going to go out and buy more products. And because this is an economy that's driven by consumer spending, you're going to see the economy pick up.
That I don't agree with your premise anyway, but that happens in Massachusetts.
What premise do you not agree with?
I don't agree
that if you pay one person higher wages,
charging more,
that it creates upward pressure on wages.
The idea that you've got to bid the lowest amount and still provide prevailing wages, so you're going to pay for the crappiest materials and the highest amount of labor for the taxpayer. I don't think that's fair to the taxpayer. I don't see how that benefits the taxpayer. It may cause inflation. It will not drive the prices up so that everybody's happy. When has this ever worked?
When has this ever worked?
Yes.
Well, you mean aside from like the New Deal?
The New Deal? Oh, my God. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't know, Sam. I appreciate you coming on, and you did a great job.
Yes, Ken, it was a pleasure. Maybe we should do this once a week.
I would love to. You're very challenging, and you hold your ground great, and I appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ken.
See you at Air America, folks. Thank you.